business growth means more jobs and more companies paying taxes. And that guarantees more of the services that Montgomery County residents have come to expect. But for years, we have heard complaints that Montgomery County is not business friendly. If you haven't heard it, you're hearing it now. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the D.C. region has added more than 94,000 jobs, while Montgomery County has lost more than 20,000 jobs in that same period between 2007 and 2020. And while the number of businesses has grown by 25,000 in D.C., Northern Virginia, and neighboring Maryland counties, Montgomery County has lost 669 businesses. So we turn to our candidates saying, what is your plan to turn this trend around? Mr. James, we start with you.
Yes, it's been shown that 85% of the new job creation comes from small businesses. And I think I've heard in enough of these forums, there's a focus on attracting large Fortune 500 companies. The Amazon negotiation and offer was so much redacted you couldn't figure out. But I think I'm a small businessman in the county, and I do sense like I'm the enemy when I try to do business with the county. I believe we can have, I would like to go out and get those unicorns. We have up to 30% vacancy in Silver Spring in their office buildings there. We can go out and attract the bleeding edge companies that are startup companies that are set to grow by leaps and bounds, and offer them an opportunity here in an opportunity zone where if they go out and make $1 billion in 10 years, then they get that tax free, and that's a big carrot. So rather than trying to court developers and headquarter type deals, I would look at promoting the small business. We are trying to win a race, and we're putting we've got a two-legged racehorse. We're focused on the biotech and on the hospitality industry. We need to open it up to some of these bleeding edge industries like AI, quantum computing. So I would bring those technologies. The reason why businesses are moving to Northern Virginia is because they had the foresight of putting Mae West, which is a hub for the internet. So if we started with doing a hub for quantum computing, we could actually build an economic powerhouse. And also, rather than fixing the climate change, we can get green companies here and export that technology.
Hans Riemer.
Well, as a parent of 2 kids, I want my kids to have a future in this county, and I want all of our kids to have a future in this county. And what do they need for that to be possible? They need great career options, and they need housing that they can afford. Montgomery County is not producing enough great private sector careers or affordable housing. And so that's a really big problem, and we need to turn it around. What's the answer? There are many answers, but let's start with transportation. We have got to have a stronger connection to Virginia. Our county executive has been fighting against a practical solution to expand the American Legion Bridge and fix 270. We've got to have a better connection with our research universities and our federal labs. The University of Maryland is right next to Montgomery County, but it's not integrated enough into our economy. The county executive proposed single tracking the Purple Line, which has 4 stops on the University of Maryland campus, connects Silver Spring and Bethesda. We need to redevelop the Red Line corridor, all up and down. We need more Bethesdas, walkable city centers, up and down Rockville Pike. County executive has supported moratoriums over new development on Rockville Pike. We need to rebuild the Purple Line, or build the Purple Line corridor as an economic engine, make it affordable, walkable, and a place where technology companies in quantum or more life science companies would want to be. County executive proposed single tracking the Purple Line into downtown Bethesda. We need more affordable housing. Companies can't grow here if they can't hire here because their workers can't afford to live here. We need a pro-housing county executive. That is one of the most important things we need to have. And we don't have that today. We have the opposite of that. We have a county executive who has been fighting against new housing at every turn. So the good news is we have life sciences growing. We have an opportunity now to get a locomotive that'll pull our train. but we got to get it right. We got to get all those things right. And if we do, we're going to win. But if we don't, if we blow it, it's more decline.
We turn to Reardon Sullivan now.
I think it's a great question. I think to grow Montgomery County, we need to bring jobs here. We need to bring good paying jobs. That's the only way that we're going to increase our tax base and really grow the county. I think we need to look at both large businesses and small businesses, whether it be a unicorn company that Peter was talking about, or some of the larger companies that have unfortunately gone to Northern Virginia, whether it be Northrop Grumman, whether it be Clark Construction, which was a $4 billion company. I think we need to work towards getting all of our all the possible companies here in Montgomery County. How do we do that? I think we need to change. I think the term you used, Chris, was business friendly. We need to make sure that if somebody's going to build something here, that they can get it through the permit office very easily. As a person who actually does that on a daily basis, there's a lot of possible improvement there. I think that we need to make sure we don't impose unnecessary regulations, such as the county council is now looking at various, I'll say, green initiatives, which are over and above what is being required in other jurisdictions. If you're a business and you say, do I want to go to Montgomery County, or do I want to go to someplace where I can more easily get the work done? I want to, where they're going to go to someplace where they can get the work done. I think we also need to focus on the very basics, such as things we talked about before, public safety. We need to make sure that if you're going to relocate your business here, that you and your workers feel safe. I think we need to work on our education system. Currently, we have schools like Watkins Mill High School, which is graduating 81% of their students, but only 3% are proficient in math per the U.S. News and World Report. So I think we have a lot of work to do, but I think it really starts at the top. You have to have a county executive that's going to have a pro-business attitude, and that's one of the things I want to bring to Montgomery County.
David Blair.
So Chris, I think this actually gets to your wife's question. How are you going to pay for things, right? Because in Montgomery County, we want the best schools, we want affordable housing, we want great transit solutions. Well, that costs money, and that money comes from a flourishing business environment. And I'm not to bore you with too many statistics, but this is shocking. Over the last 10 years, $5.2 billion is the net tax migration. Meaning if you add up the W-2s of people that came in and you subtracted the W-2s that left, we have a huge deficit. That's your tax base, and we need that to pay for all the priorities that we so value in Montgomery County. Now it's interesting, when I started a business in Montgomery County 25 years ago, I didn't have a perspective of whether it was easy or difficult to do business in Montgomery County. But only later, when we grew into a Fortune 500 company, we had offices in 30 states and thousands of employees, I started to realize, wow, Montgomery County is the most challenging place to do business. And I'm not exaggerating. And it wasn't one thing, it's everything. And so over the last 10 years since we sold that business, I put more effort into figuring out how we're going to get this economy going. And I've met with hundreds of business leaders, chamber leaders, government officials to understand what we can do to get this economy going. It's why I've developed a business bill of rights. So things that we're going to offer to our businesses around permits, inspections, procurement, making sure that we have adequate access to talent, that we're training people the right ways. I believe we can leverage what we have. The small business community that we have in Montgomery County is phenomenal, but they could use better support. We need to make sure they have access to capital so they can grow their businesses. We also have this wonderful entrepreneurial spirit in Montgomery County. 1 out of 3 of our residents was born outside the United States. Think how entrepreneurial that is, right? They had to learn a new system, a new culture, maybe a new language, and yet we're lagging the region in new business growth. I'm going to harness that entrepreneurial spirit, reverse those trends, so that we can pay for our priorities.
And Mr. Elrich.
So when I came into office, I focused on economic development, and there were a couple of things that we could address very quickly, which was Sidney Katz and I did a listening tour. We asked people why they thought Montgomery County was the worst place to do business, and asked them what they thought we needed to change. All the managers had to go to those meetings, and as a result, people began changing the permitting department and also began changing procurement, because we wanted to make sure that Montgomery County businesses had greater opportunities to do business in the county. We put in place business teams that were going to be attached to all of the community centers in the county in order to provide local business support that they weren't getting, from the Economic Development Corporation. But the bigger picture is why don't people come here? And this is the puzzle. When I came into office, and before when I was on the council, we had 10 million square feet of vacant office space, 5 million Class A, 5 million Class B. We have the lowest taxes on development by far than any jurisdiction in the DC region. And if you have lower taxes and you have massive vacancy and you're not getting jobs, you got to think about what is the problem. And the council's solution, vote things I voted against, which, by the way, didn't keep them from going into effect, the focus solely on density. The idea that if you give developers more density, you would get jobs in housing. That was Hans's mantra. We never got the jobs in housing. He's running a campaign now that there are no jobs in housing. He spent 10 years on the council, being the architect of policies that produce nothing. So we need to take a different focus on things. And one of the things that I've talked about is, changing the way we do taxes in Montgomery County. We have one tax of all taxes, which is the impact tax, which unfortunately, though it doesn't make us more taxed than Virginia, it's a tax that actually changes the cost of construction. And I want to change that. I've offered, and I've met with the business community about doing this. A lot of people would be more than happy to swap our system for Virginia's system, which is what I'm proposing.
Does anyone request rebuttal time?
Well, thank you so much. The county executive's comments there I find baffling. Let's look downtown Bethesda. What do you see in downtown Bethesda? First of all, there's a master plan that we passed in 2016. County executive voted against it, even though we worked with the community and we got consensus around that plan, and it's going to produce all kinds of great community benefits like parks and other things. Downtown Bethesda is humming. If you go there on a weekday, there are people walking around everywhere. New companies have come into Montgomery County, and they have landed in the commercial office space that we have built in downtown Bethesda. There are nearly 2,000 new housing units in downtown Bethesda, including hundreds of affordable housing units. So the assertion that this doesn't work is simply false. Now, I know the construction is painful and we're going to get through it, but Bethesda's going to be amazing. To have a county executive who looks at everything that's happening there and says that it doesn't see any value there, that tells you a lot about his vision for the future of our county. We need an executive who's going to face forward.
Any other rebuttals?
Of course, I never said I don't see any value there, but I see a problem there. The big problem is there's no affordable housing. We get 15%. We get criticized for not building enough affordable housing. County policy is you get 15% of market rate units. So if you build 2,000 units, you get 300 affordable units. Let's put it in the context. Park and Planning says we'll lose 11,000 units by 2030. There are 50,000 people today living in Montgomery County who are paying 60% of their income and cannot find affordable housing. And the county has lost over 20,000 affordable housing units since 2000. 300 units is like dropping a grain of sand at the beach and saying, can you tell the difference? We have no meaningful policies that will produce additional housing, particularly affordable housing.